pay $100 for a product with no instructions that you could easily get it stuck with the worst wire management system I've ever seen. I destroyed my thumbs getting the wire into the wire management system, and I needed a small screwdriver to even get it to work. This is a joke, man.
When I left for the holidays, I thought that the majority of DSP shenanigans for the month were over. I thought that he had spent all of the stupid that he had saved up for the entire year already, and that moving forward, we would begin to wind down after the Christmas marathon, of course. So you can imagine my shock when I get home and the first thing I see when I log on is this buffoon managing to spend another $250 on a piece of equipment that he doesn't need. And I was even more shocked that the equipment in question was a new microphone, something I didn't even know that he was interested prior to me leaving. And I guess that just goes to show you how quickly the vortex can move sometimes.
Today, I have a professional grade microphone, the likes of which I haven't, really looked into in over 10 years. It was 2014 when I moved here to Washington State from Connecticut. And back then, when I was in Connecticut, I was only using USB microphones that were very basic, sitting on a table in front of me in the light. And when I moved out here, I wanted to be more professional. I listened to my viewers who were like, you got to get a preamp and you got to get an XLR mic and you got to do this and you got to do that. Admittedly, back then I knew way less about any of this stuff than I do today. I didn't use filters. I didn't mess with it at all. I just kind of let it sit there plugged in, and sometimes it sounded great and sometimes it sounded awful.
And I think that really tells you everything that you need to know about DSP, his former content, and why he is in the position that he is in life. He hit the lottery in life, being able to play video games and make videos about them for a living. But instead of being able to take advantage of that and live on easy street, he was too lazy or too stupid to keep up with his competition in any legitimate capacity. He just has a complacent mindset that breeds poor outcomes. I mean, how for 10 years did he not look into microphones at all when they are one of the most important aspects to his job? I mean, half of his content is literally speaking into this piece of equipment. He never looked into them. Now, I personally don't think that the microphone that he was using the other day was bad. I'll tell you right now, I think it sounds exactly the same as the new one. But the fact that he went this long just leaving it be, never adjusting, never looking at improvements, that's what's so appalling. I just can't respect this caliber of laziness, and he thinks that by telling this story like this, it's more endearing, and it really emphasizes how much he's changed. It doesn't. It only makes it clearer how incompetent he really is when it comes to his own business.
So, obviously, quite a lot has changed in the last decade when it comes to people podcasting and broadcasting and recording. You know what I'm saying? And it left me behind. It really did. I just stayed with the same equipment because I felt, I don't need upgrades or whatever. In some cases, that is true. For example, my preamp here, all right, which is basically the Focusrite Scarlett 2i or something like that. It's 10 years old, but in the last decade, preamps haven't really changed that much. The newest version of this preamp is pretty much exactly the same as what I have now. It has very minor changes or improvements. So looking at that, I'm like, I don't ever need to really upgrade that as long as it's working. Just keep the same preamp. And if you don't know, a preamp is what these microphones plug into and converts the signal into something that's USB that you could use with your computer. But when it comes to microphones, no exaggeration, in the last decade, they have improved greatly, okay? My last microphone, which was an Audio-Technica, was great for the time, but it's the style of mic, and I don't remember what they call it. It's a cardioid. No, because cardioid, it's different. There's different, I think it's called condenser mic. That's exactly what I was trying to think in my head. Condenser mic. A condenser microphone works well when you are facing the front of it, and that's about it. You need to be facing the front of it in order for it to work well. So as long as it's directly in front of me, it's great. The problem being, now with my setup changing, I don't want to have a microphone directly in front of me. What if I want to use a nice special effect like this, and if the microphone's in front of me, now it's blocking the shot? Or, in the case of when I was gaming, it was actually blocking my arms, and it was having my arms completely disappear, or right here it would cut off, right? So, you want to have something that's not going to have to get in the way.
That's just incredible, right? This guy went over a decade with the same microphone, and his first and main reason for the change now is because he doesn't want it in frame of his stupid fake green screen. Some things you just can't make up, because if you would have told me a week ago that this would happen and this would be his reasoning, I'd tell you that's incredibly stupid and a troll theory. Flash forward to today, and I guess I would have had egg all over my face. The most insane part about this whole idea, though, is that there's no reason he couldn't have a mic in front of him facing the proper direction. He only does two things in his content, which is play video games and talk. Proper mic positioning and distance shouldn't be compromised when talking is the #1 aspect of his content. And there's a million other adjustments that could have been made to his setup to remedy the mic in frame issue, and 99% of those adjustments would have been free, or at least a fraction of the price that he spent on this new microphone. It really is just the most roundabout way to solve a problem that wasn't ever really a problem to begin with. The only reason he's even in the position to think it was a problem in the first place was because of his already egregious setup that he alone is responsible for.
The vast majority of podcasters, broadcasters, and content creators today use a microphone that they aim from a direction, usually from up above them, and they use a boom arm to do so. I haven't had that available setup because I didn't have the room, I didn't have the means to do it. Finally now, this fall, with me doing all these major upgrades, I now have the ability to do it. And now today, for the first time in the greater part of a decade, I have a new microphone that is professional grade. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about it.
Before we do that, can I just point out how odd it is that this is even a topic of discussion like this? I can understand being excited and then wanting to bring it up, but an entire topic for the pre-stream? It's just not necessary, because what audience honestly cares that much? The only people interested in info like this are other content creators and trolls. No one just casually watching gaming content actually cares about the microphone in use as long as it's an acceptable quality. And despite all of the things that I can say about DSP and his content, his actual mic quality as of late hasn't been an issue. The mic filters, on the other hand, have been, but that could have been fixed again for free.
It is not what you think, because some people are thinking I bought the top of the line microphone. I did not. So yesterday we were talking about mics, and people had different opinions. Some were like, "Oh, the EV is the best one. The Shure is the best one. You should buy this one. You should buy that one." And people were throwing all this information at me. Well, all the information that was being thrown at me was basically like the most high-end possible mic. The most high-end mics, no exaggeration, cost around $400+. All right. Do I think I'm going to get the use out of those microphones for that premium price? No, not really. Those microphones are basically for like voice actors, singers, and performers who want to get the absolute best audio out of that mic, like audiophile level. You know, if you're going to be hitting high highs and low lows and all this stuff, then you want one of those mics. Even for like a podcaster, they're too good. And it's funny because someone's like, "Well, Joe Rogan uses them." Oh, Joe Rogan, the multimillionaire? Yeah, I'm pretty sure he just said buy the best. He doesn't really need it. He just said buy the best because he can afford it, right? In my case, I don't need that, okay? So what I did is I looked into it last night, and I was trying to find a microphone that's much better than what I have, but isn't going to break the bank, isn't going to be me paying an over-the-top premium for something I'm not going to use. And I was also looking for one that had a nice feature, okay?
Before he goes any further and inevitably makes himself look stupid, I want to give him his dues. Big ups DSP for understanding that you didn't need a $400 microphone for your little show here. I know that that's not really much of praise, but it is totally within the DSP MO to spend an exorbitant amount of money on something that he doesn't need. Case in point, his background foam. I still think that $250 was too much for the minimal improvement he's made, if any, but at least he was smart enough to stop at $250 as opposed to the $400.
Well, of course, like everything, buying stuff online is hit or miss. All right, first of all, let me show you what I got. The Shure M7V Plus podcast microphone works with both XLR, which is the standard microphone technology that everyone has been using for ages. By the way, I just noticed that the box was dented when it arrived. That's nice. Good thing that it had good packing. Or it also uses USB-C. So you can use either or, okay? Me doing research yesterday, I looked into it at the different quality of the different microphones. This is actually very similar to the top of the line Shure mic. The top of the line one, I think it's called like the S7BD or something like that. And basically, it's just like so minor of an improvement. Looking at the stats and the way that it picks up the sound, I'm not going to really benefit from paying the extra $150+. You know, it's more than half the cost of this. This microphone is just over like $240, okay? I'm not going to benefit from paying $400 for a microphone. I'm not going to get anything better out of it. I'm not a singer. I'm not a voice acting performer. I don't need it, all right?
Again, I'm glad to hear that, but why is he trying to justify this purchase to his audience this way? He's said numerous times that he can spend his money how he wants, so why does he feel so inclined to explain every single purchase in this manner? I thought that this was DSP Space Gaming, not DSP Space Microphones. And what does he mean buying things online are always hit or miss? It's not like it's clothing, it's not gonna fit improperly. All of the features and requirements are stated on the product page, and any information that he could require later on can, more than likely, be found in a review video someone else has made. Every time that he decides to make a change, he's always so unwilling to just find the information through the proper channels, directly resulting in his own frustration. A world's worth of information at his fingertips, but everything is hit or miss and improperly detailed, I guess.
So I looked into this one, and the reason that I got it was twofold. Number one, because it is this type of mic that points at you, which is what I want. At this point, I just want the mic to point at me, and then it's going to pick up the best audio. As you can hear right now, it sounds pretty good, doesn't it? And by the way, do you hear the bass in my voice? This microphone, as long as it's relatively close to me, will pick up a lot of the bass in my voice, which the other microphone was only doing when it was like dead center in front and stuff like that. This one is going to pick it up much nicer because it's directionally pointed at me. It's going to get those inflections of bass and everything in my voice.
You mean like a microphone? Please inform me if I'm being ignorant, but isn't that just how microphones work? They often pick up sound from one end and pick up all of the frequencies of your voice to record for later use. He just said that the mic points from a direction like his microphone before hadn't or something. Every mic has a proper direction and distance from your face. This new mic isn't unique in that aspect. And now that I'm looking at it, it doesn't actually appear that the microphone sits any further from him than the last one did, which just means to me that I still think that he's too far away from his goddamn mic, because that was the same complaint I had about his microphone previously. They're supposed to sit quite a bit closer to his face.
But here's the other very nice feature of this microphone, which I think you guys are going to enjoy. All right? Just listen to this. Oh! So I know that that was a little variety of sound effects, but did you notice something in that variety of sound effects? Did you notice that nothing dropped off? Did you notice that you could hear the high highs and you could hear the claps? Did you notice that absolutely nothing is cutting off or dropping? This microphone should not cut off or drop any range of sounds. It's built to actually be able to cover those sounds, okay? Lucky Gremlin, if you say it sounds the same to you again, I'm just going to remove you from chat because I've already tested this and it's concretely different. And I've had enough of people being negative every day and you're one of them. So just stop right now. This microphone is significantly better than the one that I had previously.
But it does sound almost exactly the same. You can say it's better all you want, you can quote all sorts of data or excerpts from the product page, and that won't change the fact that it still sounds the same. Minus, of course, the terrible filter that he had on the last one, because that's really all that he was demonstrating there with those god-awful noises that he was making. The only audible difference between this microphone and the last, it seems, is that he took the filters off so it no longer cuts him off, which is incredibly funny because I think that those actually make the content worse. I don't know how many times I can say this, but no one wants to hear him clapping directly into the microphone. That is exactly the type of noise that should be removed from the content. But of course, DSP thinks the exact opposite. He is actually a very big fan of the clapping. It's almost as if ever since he saw Andy doing it over on the Kino Casino, he can't get enough of the clapping. Yet another downside to the Kino arc, I guess.
Okay, you can actually hear the laughing. You can hear the high tones. It's not cutting off and muting like the old mic used to do. The problem was with the old mic, it couldn't handle the extremes. It was either one way or the other. So this one can handle the extremes and adjust them. Okay, that's what's good about the mic. So this will actually sound more similar to the previous mic levels that I had. Only difference is now it won't blow your ears out. This is what I wanted to do when I put all the filters on the microphone earlier in the year, but it didn't really work. The filters basically muffled too much. Well, now this microphone is working well. And the thing is, I still have the filters on it. Here's what happened, okay? Let me tell you the whole story from start to finish of getting this working this morning. So, I unbox it, and it has a USB cable in it. I'm like, well, I don't want to use it with USB. I want to use it with my existing preamp. Well, I have to use the XLR cable then. So, I just unplugged the XLR cable from my previous microphone, and I go to unscrew my previous microphone, and guess what? I can't get it off the boom mic stand because the metal rod that it attaches to rotates. So if I'm trying to unscrew it, the entire rod is rotating. So I'm like, I have to get a wrench to hold this thing in place so I can detach the old one. So I had to run to the garage and grab a wrench to do that. Unplug the XLR from that, screwed this guy in. I immediately noticed that this guy is heavier than my previous mic by a lot, actually. It actually has much more in it, I guess. So then I tightened everything super tight so it wouldn't sag. I tried to position it well, and I got it all set up. And immediately I noticed it wasn't working.
Everything is a Herculean task for this guy, I swear. He makes every mundane little action sound like the most complicated process known to man. I'm sure he thinks that this makes him sound like a hard-working professional streamer, but all it really does is make him sound incompetent and inept. I mean, did he need to explicitly state that he tightened his mic stand and had to go get a wrench to put his microphone on? I mean, it's cool that he owns a wrench, I guess. I didn't really expect that out of him, but it's all unnecessary information that any sane person would have left out of the story. Not DSP though. Oh no, you need every grueling detail so that he doesn't have to acknowledge the fact that he doesn't really have any content for today.
So FYI, let me show you something. I want you to take a look at that microphone. Do you see something on it? I know this is silly. You're going to say, oh, there's a light on it. Yeah. So this microphone is supposed to have touch to activate and touch to mute. I was like, oh, that's a nice feature. So when I'm using it, and let's say that I want to stop talking for a second, I'm going to sneeze, or I'm going to cough, or I'm going on a break. Okay, guys, I'll be right back. And then I should be able to walk out of the room, and you can't hear me. Except I plugged it in, I'm looking at it, I'm like, the light's not turning on. And then I looked over at my preamp, and it wasn't even blinking, as if it was receiving sound. And I'm like, uh-oh, what's going on here? So I basically started to look all around. Okay. And I'm trying to figure out what's going on. So I'm like, tell me this is at least working. Please tell me this is at least working. And I went over to it's the Scarlett, Focusrite Scarlett. And I started touching the knob. That's the sensitivity knob. And I turned it a little bit all the way to the right. And I talked, and all of a sudden it like lit up like a Christmas tree. I was like, okay, it is working. The only problem was this microphone is actually less sensitive than my old one. It requires more open sensitivity to actually get the audio. So I was like, oh, I have to open it up. So I adjusted it back and forth a little bit to get it to the point where it seems like it's working just as well as the old mic, as, you know, with the sensitivity settings and receiving audio and stuff. So I got that working. Okay, so it's working with the preamp. But what's going on with the mic? The light's not on. I'm touching it. Nothing's happening. It doesn't seem to have any effect. So I open up. I start reading the instructions, right? It says, oh, yeah, this mic has functionality with both USB and XLR. Oh, by the way, if you want to use it just with XLR, it has absolutely none of the features. None of the features. No touching, no light adjustment to tell you what mode you're on. Absolutely nothing. Like literally nothing. Okay?
He kept saying no features, literally zero, like he was about to rattle off a list of the features, but then proceeded to go on and only say that the mute button doesn't work and that the lights don't respond. God forbid, right? Without knowing anything about an XLR microphone, because I don't have one, I would assume that the XLR input, though, does not provide the kind of information needed to run the lights and the mute button. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but I thought that most of those functionalities would be handled on an external piece of hardware, therefore you wouldn't need them on the microphone themselves to function. Those are just my assumptions though. DSP obviously didn't come to the same one, so let's cut him some slack, because it can be really frustrating when you buy a new piece of equipment or something that you're excited about and it doesn't function the way that you thought it would. At least I would cut him the slack until you take into consideration that all of this information was very accessible via the reviews on Amazon, which is where I'm assuming that he bought it, because we all know that he's not going to be going outside for this. A simple scroll down through, though, would provide you with an AI summary of all of the reviews of the product, and wouldn't you know it, in the summary, people mention their approval and disapproval over the USB functionality. All that's required is one more click to see those reviews in more detail, and plain as day in the King's English, someone outright explains DSP's exact issue. It's almost like everything that I said about the information being readily available online was true after all, and had DSP just taken the time to read, he would have known about this beforehand. Amazing.
What the hell? This is absolutely ridiculous. So I have to be using it USB only in order to get the features out of it. Well, that sucks, because here's the thing. I could use it USB. I have a USB 3.0 port open right now, but then I can't use my preamp. So if I don't use the preamp, the audio levels are going to sound completely different. I'm not going to have the adjustability that I want, you know? So basically what would happen is if I don't use my preamp, I'm forced to use the software that the microphone comes with. Now, I'm not saying that the software is bad. It's a name brand. Sure, that's a name brand for microphone. But do I really want to have to rely on that software being fully compatible with OBS and everything working properly? Do I want to learn a whole new suite of software to use this microphone? Not right now, okay? So I'm not saying that eventually I may not use USB 3.0. It's just going to be frustrating because the cord they give you isn't long. The cord they give you is very short. So how am I supposed to have a USB 3.0 cord going from this all the way down this boom arm, all the way down the side of my desk, all the way across my floor, all the way to the PC over there? I'm going to have to buy extension cables and everything for the thing, you know?
He says that like he doesn't have an entire household's worth of wires already running all across his floor haphazardly. I mean, what's one more at this point, right? But this really is just further proving just how lazy Phil is. The way that he describes setting up his mic in the software, it sounds like he has to take classes and get a certification. But the reality is, it's probably just as simple as launching the software, setting the mic level, and never opening it again. But he can't even be asked to try before throwing his hands in the air and acting as though it's some big to-do. Oh no, everybody, DSP has to adjust his microphone levels in a piece of software. However will he recover? It really is a wonder that anybody could support this kind of learned helplessness.
So it is pretty frustrating. I wish that it was more clear. Like, no lie, nowhere online does it actually say that if you use this microphone with XLR, you get no features. It says the opposite. Like, it says, oh, fully compatible with XLR. Then why don't you say that the features don't work? Why do I have to buy it, open it, and read the instruction paper inside to find out that it's a half-featured mic using XLR? That's pretty dumb. Because, you know, like I said, I paid just under $250 for it, but that's because it has features. It has the touch. It has all these features. And now I can't use them, okay?
Again though, this is entirely his own fault for not looking into it. I knew nothing of this microphone beforehand and have no interest in it, but was still able to find out about this shortcoming without ever leaving the product page on Amazon. His inability to navigate a website is not anyone's fault but his own. Could it have been made more clear on the product page? Yeah, probably, I'll give him that. But is it the end of the world and on the company that he didn't read the reviews? I really don't think so.
So I'll have to look into that. Right now, I just wanted it to work immediately. So I'm using XLR and I'm using it with my Focusrite preamp, okay? So I then went into OBS and I wanted to do a couple demos. So first I turned off all of my filters, every single filter off, okay? And when I did that and I recorded, the volume was very low. And I was like, oh, that's not good. I wonder why the volume is so low. So then I went and I turned on all the filters that I had previously used with my other mic and I did a demo recording. And it actually was working really good, but I was like, it sounds just slightly low, so let me up the gain. So then I upped the gain. It was at 8. I upped it to 11, and I hit record, and now it sounds good. And that's when I started doing the testing of me laughing like, and stuff like that. And as you can hear, it doesn't drop off. It doesn't cut off any sounds like it used to. That was the major problem with my mic earlier in the year when I put these filters on. It was cutting all this stuff off, okay? And now it won't anymore, hopefully.
I remember the day that he put those stupid filters on. He was so proud of himself, practically puffing his chest out about the whole thing, talking on and on about how it made him more professional, and improvements like that to the stream were a long time coming and drastically improving the content as a whole. Fast forward what, 6 months later, and all of a sudden the filters were an issue, and now this new microphone is actually the improvement that was necessary the whole time, because of course it was. This is why it's so hard to take him seriously during segments like this, because given an amount of time, he will inevitably switch his tune and completely retract everything that he said in the past to fit the narrative he's spinning today. The whole thing can just be so tiresome.
So that's the big improvement. Now, the other improvement, of course, is it's pointing at me, so it's very maneuverable, unlike the other mic where I had to have the certain side of the mic kind of aiming at me, and I needed to have a special pop guard on it and all of that. This one already has the built-in filter on. As you can see, it has that guard on it. You don't need like an additional guard to use this style of microphone. And it's very easy to maneuver with a boom arm. So this is going to be easier to use with a boom arm, adjusting the angles or whatever to get it to sound good. Like, actually, when I was about to start today's podcast, all right, I was actually going to have the desk over there, and I had the boom arm stretched all the way out to reach me. And I was like, oh, wait a minute, I want to play you guys a video. So if I'm going to play you a video, well, obviously what I need to do then is I need to have the boom arm in a different position. So I move the desk over, I readjusted the boom arm, and it works fine. As you can see, it's pointed at me. It's not in my face, but it's at a good angle to reach me, and you can hear it well, you know?
Imagine showing up to a concert and before actually starting the show and getting on with the music that you showed up to hear, the artist took 20 minutes to explain to you the intricacies of their new microphones and the methodology that they used to ensure the proper distance from them was met. Are you imagining your favorite artist wasting your time with the most inane subject matter possible? Because that's essentially what he's doing right now. Except instead of music, it's supposed to be his pre-stream. Game news, the schedule, troll rants, that's what people show up for. Instead, this was the opening for the day. This was what everyone got to witness on Startup. How miserable.
Now, could it be a little better? Yeah, for example, let me show you. So now it's literally right in my face. And as you can probably hear, it sounds a little better. It'll catch my bass even better. But I would need to have the mic like right there in my face to get the optimal audio. Do we really want me eating the mic? Probably not. Okay, so it's all depends, depending on the situation or what I'm doing. I could have it closer. Maybe, for example, if I'm going to be doing an interview, maybe I actually want the microphone closer, because then it doesn't really care. You're not looking at the visuals of the interview as much, right? But for the most part, I think it's probably going to be like this. Slightly more back, slightly angled, right? Just to kind of be there at the right angle of the camera or whatever. And I think this is going to be like the optimal kind of situation. Okay, and the good thing is, again, when you're using effects, it completely erases the microphone. Now, look, I'm fully on camera. And so when I'm playing games particularly, for example, when I'm doing this, the microphone is completely off camera now. And of course, I'll aim it a little better. But as you can see, this is it. This is me playing right now. And as you can see, it's fine. The microphone is not in the shot whatsoever, but we're still getting good audio, right? So there you go. Now, let's do a test. All right, we're going to do a test right now of the sensitivity. This should be fine because I'm using the same exact filters that I was using previously, okay? So what I want to do, I want to watch this video with you guys.
I definitely don't need to see that part of this again, because for those who didn't see it, he plays a minute's worth of his own clipped content to see if it picks up from the TV to the microphone, and the clip in question has almost no commentary. It really just accentuates how terrible and lackluster his commentary is as a whole. I won't subject you to that torture though, you've already endured so much. Instead, I want to take a quick look at the next stream he did because somehow he managed to make the mic sound so much worse.
Welcome to the show. I'm DSP and this is the Level 1 podcast for Sunday the 29th of December 2024. And a lot is still going on, let's just put it that way. As much as I could say everything's good and everything's working fully, we still have issues. And when I say issues, I mean everything is changing, everything is fluctuating. My new microphone, which I started using a couple days ago, at that point was using old tech. It was using what's called XLR tech. And if you don't know what XLR tech is, it's the old style of microphone that makes everything mono. And basically when you use that, it washes out the sound. Now, for microphones, it's usually not that big of a deal at all, actually.
What? Again, I'm not any sort of audio specialist, but I'm pretty sure that XLR is the professional standard for a reason. And when I say professional, I mean real professionals, audio engineers, musicians, people in broadcast television. And it's for that reason I have a hard time believing that XLR is the input type that washes out the sound. There's just no way that these types of professionals are putting up with subpar quality in their industry. And if you go look into the subject matter, again, one search is all that is required, and you can find article after article explaining that yes, XLR is indeed the superior input method for audio, and that USB is more for versatility and ease of use. Of course though, we all know that searching the internet for answers is far beyond DSP's pay grade.
So that's all well and good, but the problem is when I was doing that, I couldn't use any of the features of the mic. For example, watch this. What I was saying was, you couldn't hear me there because it has touch to mute. And that's amazing because this is going to be so good for when I need to take a break. I'm going to sneeze, I'm going to cough, I'm going to clear my throat. I just touch it, do it, go right back, instant muting. And people have said for years, can you mute your mic? Well, now I can instantly mute it by simply just tapping it. Okay. Super duper awesome in that regard. But yeah, outside of that, the microphone with this USB connection that I'm now using over XLR has adjustment issues. As you can hear, it sounds completely different. One thing it has is more bass. Do you hear the bass in my voice? Previously, there was no bass in my voice pretty much, and everyone was like, oh, I don't get it. I had to do this. I basically had to put the mic like right in my face like this, and then you would get bass. But now there's actually bass even when the mic is further back.
Just listen to how chunky this audio sounds at this distance from his face. It's most definitely not supposed to sound like that. Hell, his old microphone didn't sound nearly as bad when he's got it this close. And I want to make it clear that I don't think that this is the microphone's fault. I think that, as always with him, DSP has managed to set himself up for failure, and his completely botched setup has led us to this point. It's just crazy that he has no idea it sounds this bad. Well, either he has no idea or he is ruthlessly gaslighting his audience into believing that this sounds better.
But as you can see, now it sounds different. And already everyone's saying, yup, the mic sounds like there's echo. You're right. And the thing is, I'm trying to figure out how to get rid of it. And I'm not sure how. I actually have an echo filter on, and it doesn't seem to be doing anything. I actually have the proprietary software of the microphone set up. And so it should be applied to the mic. But it's just weird. I know people are saying this sounds different. I know it's not bad. It's just weird and needs tweaking. And the question is, like, what do you tweak? Like, for example, I'm looking at filters right now. We've got gain, we've got noise gate, we've got noise suppression, we've got echo removal, which I'll add it again because I had it added. And then I removed it, and now I'm adding it back, but I'm not sure it does anything, quite frankly.
And there's all the confirmation I needed that this is a mess of his own making. Still has filters on his new equipment, and he has no idea what they even do, if anything at all. Very cool, professional style streamer here, obviously. But the fun didn't end there, because on this very stream, he received what I am told is his 4th mic arm. Don't ask me why he needed 4 of them, as he only uses one microphone at a time. But this mic arm setup, as you can imagine, didn't go as planned either. As a matter of fact, it went horribly, and he acted like the biggest baby man on the planet during. So, here are some of my favorite moments from a nearly 2-hour mic arm setup segment.
Yeah, I guess I got to get a bigger wrench or better wrenches. We're going to be here until I figure this out. I can't, isn't this great? Pay $100 for a product with no instructions that you can easily get it stuck with the worst wire management system I've ever seen. I destroyed my thumbs getting the wire into the wire management system, and I needed a small screwdriver to even get it to work. This is a joke, man. In 2024, again, I've said this how many times in the last couple of months, people don't want to become technical geniuses. They don't want to invest time into, they just want to spend money and then use the product, okay? There shouldn't have to be research. If you want, if it's complicated that you need some instructions, put them in the box. Make them easy to read. This is not rocket science. This is easy, just simple convenience. And these companies don't care about it. They're just incompetent at what they do. It's complete incompetence. Whoever made this mic arm is incompetent. It's got awful cable management with no explanation of how to use it. And it's got an arm you can over torque, and now you're stuck. Well, why the fuck didn't you just tell me how to do it? Too hard to put a piece of paper in the box? Yeah, apparently so for these idiots. Well, I guess I'm gonna go grab some wrenches. I don't know what else to do. Should I get an actual towel? Like I can get a washcloth, I guess. That's the best I can do. I don't like I can use a whole body towel, maybe a washcloth to try to do this. This is so ludicrous. What a waste of time, right?
He's overdosed on consumerism at this point. He really expects to just throw wads of cash at a problem and it just solve itself. Why is he so unwilling to just put forth any effort? Why is money the only way that he wants to solve problems? And he may be complaining about them not including instructions, but they did. And I'm sure that you aren't exactly shocked to hear that, but they did include a piece of paper with a QR code on it that could have allowed him to watch a setup video of his mic arm online. And from my understanding, known Dent Darziak was continuing to try and have DSP watch the video throughout the stream, but he just refused. All of the answers that he could ever want, and yet he declines.
Okay, that's what I'm gonna do now. Ready? By the way, someone sent me a $1.50 tip like half an hour ago. No, it was 10 minutes ago. So we're just gonna have a chill stream after this because I'm gonna literally, if I have stress, I'm gonna jump out the window. So we're just gonna hang out after I fix this. We're almost done fixing it. This has now been a 2.5 hour long podcast. I'm just going to name it the Disaster Cast. Mike Malfunction Madness. I'm really sorry, obviously, everyone, but, this is my life. And you have people with the audacity to say, oh, you should have done this off stream. Oh, yeah. I literally just got done saying on the podcast that I spent my entire day off doing work. My literal entire day off was grocery shopping and running errands, building pieces of furniture in the home, cleaning the house, working in here. I was actually working on stuff in here on this mic and other things. and a rewiring. I rewired the room. And it's like, yeah, it's because I had so much time. I was just sitting around doing nothing all day. I literally had probably about an hour to myself the entire last 24 hours.
Poor DSP, the world's biggest victim. Why must God give his toughest battles to his strongest soldiers? All DSP ever wanted to do was relax and have fun. Now he's stressed beyond belief, even threatening to jump out of the window, all over this goddamn microphone and goddamn microphone arm. I think that that's all I can take for today though. My DSP limit has been met. Hopefully you enjoyed this video enough to come back for the next one. Until then, be safe. Goodbye.